Joining me is Denzil Dias from Warner Bros. Denzil, what a pleasure to speak to you here. Welcome to Business Today Television.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin by asking you, a lot has been happening with media and entertainment. The age is, of course, evolving with the inception and the conception of digital media. How do you see the trend coming along, and what is the growth story?
So, from the digital perspective, what has changed dramatically is the way audiences consume content. They used to consume contents in the olden days. The only way you could consume content was watching it on a television channel at a predetermined time or watching it in cinemas. So you had two screens in which you could consume content. That's changed dramatically. Also, the way you the content does not only mean films or television. It now also means gaming. It also means you're being on Instagram. It's being a creator of your own story. So the ways content is consumed and created is changed dramatically. Along with that dramatic change, a lot of the creative industries have also changed and evolving. The most latest being Sora 2, which was launched in the US and has just taken the industry by storm, because all of a sudden today you could set a few prompts and characters which were in films or TV series could be multi-layer dialogues that you want them to dialogue. Now that's a copyright issue, is a different thing altogether, but that's what is the way the content is being created and consumed has changed dramatically. That means a lot of challenges for the legacy businesses. It's also opportunities for new businesses to come on board. So whether it's the way you create it or the way you consume it, that's changed dramatically and continues to change as time goes by. So for us, where we are in the business of distributing films in cinemas, it's now become a challenge as to how do you convince an audience who knows about a film but get them into the cinema to watch the film, because they can watch the film later on, maybe 6 months later, or on a digital channel, or they may decide not to watch it at all. So it's for us to decide how hard we need to work to get that audience into the cinema to sell that one ticket.
And how are you working towards this challenge? Because this challenge is more of a sentimental shift rather than a technical change. It is in a way technical too.
Yes. So the first thing we need to do is that we have to change the concept of marketing our films, right? It's no longer about awareness. It's about creating a compulsive moment in the life of the film where an audience says, that's interesting. That piques my interest. I think maybe I should be watching this film, but I've not yet made up my mind. And then different times of the marketing of the film, you create such a compelling argument as to why they need to go into the cinemas to watch your film, which means that you need to create a marketing story right from the first drop of the trailer, and then create moments during the journey from the first trailer to the film to convince the audiences that this is the film that I'm going to watch. You may call it a FOMO moment, which is partly there, but mostly it's about, okay, I'm going to spend time, I'm going to keep aside convenience, because I can watch this film on a screen or I can watch this film at home. I'm going to keep convenience aside, and I'm going to keep the cost aside, because it's, again, a cinema ticket today is expensive as watching it on OTT at home. I'm going to keep all of that. I'm going to be cost aside, I'm going to be convinced aside, and then I'm going to go and watch a movie. So that's so important, and it's not just for us in the Hollywood business, but it's therefore applicable for the 2,000 plus films that release in India. And we're seeing that is a challenge, because the top 10 films or the top 20 films have a higher share of box office year on year as compared to the pre-pandemic years. That has to change, and the only way to change that is each of us work harder to get our audiences into cinema.
Which is a story within a story.
That's right. That's right. Because what are we in the business of? We are storytellers. Whether we are our filmmakers are our storytellers, our marketing and distribution is a story that we're telling to the audience. So ultimately, the creative business is all about storytelling.
I absolutely get that, but do you think it's rhetorical, the fact that the experience of going to a movie cannot really be replaced by just watching it at home? While it's become convenient, it cannot be completely replaced.
Absolutely, and with technology, when you have special formats coming out like 3D, IMAX, 4DX, Real D, and so on, it cannot be replaced. But however, the audience says, that's not necessarily something that I will go to see a film in. I will go to see the film in if it's the star that appeals to me, if it's a story that appeals to me, if it's the director that appeals to me, if it's a franchise that I love. So it's definitely, it cannot be replaced. If it's just like, you go to a restaurant and eat food and versus home food, right? There are certain things that you'll always go to a
An
restaurant.
experience.
So ultimately it boils down to what makes the decision for you to go to see a film in a cinema. So for us, that's the most important part, because we know that it cannot change, but the audiences don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And what matters to us is convince the audiences to come and watch a film.
Yeah. Do you also consider the revenue as another challenge of it? Because of course box office has taken a major hit with the evolving OTT and movies releasing on a digital platform, especially during those years of pandemic where it was just impossible to step out. But that then became a norm. It became a usual, a normal for a lot of people to question that, is there even a need to go out? But that's taken industry by a storm.
Yes, so that is true. But if you look at the box office, India box office, we've had 2023 was the best year ever recorded in terms of the entire lifetime of India box office. It was the highest year. 2025 could end up with the year equaling, if not besting the record. So we know that audiences are coming back into the cinemas. The box office is there. However, there is an underlying truth that we know is that the number of audiences coming into the cinema is actually reduced. So the increase in box office that you're seeing in terms of on a year-on-year and on having the best years is driven by the average ticket price increasing. But the actual footfalls has fallen. And that is something, while we be positive and optimistic that, oh yes, we are making the same amount of box office, if not the better box office than the pre-pandemic years, audiences are not coming into the cinemas. What works for us, fortunately, is that we have got such a diverse film industry. It's Hindi, it's Tamil, it's Telugu, it's Kannada, it's Malayalam, it's Gujarati. It's got multiple films industries in one country. So if one industry falters, and we're seeing of late that the Hindi film industry is not performing at the level that it should be performing, there's a Kannada film industry or the Malayalam film industry.
Yeah.
So from a creative perspective, India is much better positioned than any other country in the world. And we've always, I do believe that as Indians, we consume cricket and we consume movies. We just got to find a way of how we can increase the number of people watching movies into the cinemas. And I'm very positive and optimistic that we will eventually get there. From a Hollywood perspective, I can tell you that the films that we distribute between Warner Bros. Discovery and Universal Films, most of our films are now, India is among the top 10 countries international markets, whether it's F1, which completed 100 days at the cinemas this year, whether it's Jurassic World Rebirth, whether it's the Conjuring film or Final Destination, Bloodlines, all these films have been among the top 10 markets. So we know that there is an audience, there's a young Gen Z audience who's open to watching not just the content in their languages, not the content which they connect with, but also the global content which probably would serve a different taste for them. So I do believe that there is an opportunity for us to grow this market, which would help. If a film is successful in cinemas, it's also going to be successful on the digital platform.
Yeah, I love how there has been a shift from India crazy about cricket and Bollywood to now India crazy about cricket and movies, which is the power of its regional cinema, like you also mentioned, and now that's quite taking the global platform too, and that could be India's story for on the global content hub going forward.
Yeah, so we are one of the largest producing countries of films, right? Nobody makes 2,000 films in a year. So, but what matters most is what kind of films that we can take out there. So it was such a great joy to know that Homebound gets selected for the Oscars, right? As an industry, sometimes I feel there's too many egos at play, and the art doesn't take the front seat, right? So over a period of time, the fact that there's such great industries competing with each other, also competing on the global stage, will bring out the best of our filmmakers. But more than that, I think it's the audience that's demanding us. It's the audience that's telling us that, no, we will not accept your formulaic storytelling. Please give us something fresh. Please give us something which deserves our time. And that's only going to drive the best of creativity from our filmmakers. It will drive the best of creativity from us as marketing and distributors to make sure that we take the story that our filmmakers make and reach it out to the widest possible audience so that they can enjoy it on the big screen, they can enjoy it on the small screen, they can enjoy it on their TV screens. And that's the way the storytelling should always be. Storytelling should not be consumed only once, it's consumed twice, thrice. Especially if it holds on to your attention, especially it teaches you a life lesson, especially if it makes you cry, laugh, brings out emotions which you should feel once in a while. That's where the storytelling should resonate.
Thank you very much, Denzil, for sharing your views.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.